and welcome. My name is Abigail Hicken, Client Experience Manager here at SafeEg Systems. So today we're going to work through the webinar and introduction. So in this webinar, we're going to go through some processes for how you might get started setting up your SafeEg Systems software. We're then going to look at the dashboard and the different tools that are available there for you to manage your system, and then go on to setting up your account and also looking at business details, creating locations and mapping hazards. So let's first of all have a look at what you might do before you get started. So setting up a safety system can be quite an overwhelming task if you're not quite sure where to start. So just a few tips for how you might go about getting started. First of all, have a think about who in your system can give you a hand, or who in your business can give you a hand. Setting up a system by yourself can be a huge challenge. So having some helpers that are going along for the ride with you can be an enormous help and relieve the burden on one individual doing all the work. Also have a think about your greatest risks and hazards within your business. Are there particular tasks that you do repeatedly and often, or are there particular machines that you use a lot or are particularly hazardous? We know in agriculture that quad bikes and tractors, for instance, are disproportionately represented in injury and fatality statistics. So it would make sense to have a look at some controls around those pieces of machinery. Also, with regards to tasks that you do frequently are obviously more likely to have some risks associated with them than something that you do very rarely. Or alternatively, there might be particular tasks that you do rarely but are inherently dangerous. So those areas which require particular attention should be where you start work. And then as you progress through setting up your system and creating documents to control things, or putting in processes to control hazards and risks, you can move on to other areas. Okay, so with regards to the tasks of setting up, there are some tasks within the system that it's very easy to allocate out. Things like, for instance, adding in inventory can easily be done by one of your workers while you're concentrating on something else. So while you're setting up your system, have a think about whether some of these tasks can be allocated to somebody else and enable you to focus on other areas. Getting other people involved within the business also gets their buy-in and commitment. One of the areas that we quite often find when people are setting up their safety system is that some of the other individuals in the business might have pushback against it. So get them on board and get them working with you right from the start. Keep in mind, lastly, that you are never a compliant business. You are always working towards compliance. Safety is never done. It is a journey that goes on forever, and we're always working towards a better and safer workplace. So keep in mind that we're only ever working towards continuous improvement and finding more and better ways of doing things safely. So on that, let's get going with having a look at the actual software. So what we have here is the SafeEg Systems dashboard. On this dashboard, there are a number of different tools that you can use while setting up your system. So if we look at the top section where you've got the overview, you've got overdue tasks, incidents that have happened in the past week, checklists that have been run today, how many staff are at work, any inductions which are overdue, any near miss and incident reports which haven't been completed, any registrations which may have expired, and any test or tag, so machinery or tools mainly, which needs to be tested and tagged but has expired. Now, these things can be clicked into so that you can go into them and have a look, and it will give you a list. Obviously in here, I have no outstanding inductions, but if I did, they would show up here. So this is an interactive dashboard where you can click into things and see where things are at. So now we come to the compliance assessment. So the compliance assessment is this little square box over here, which gives you a bit of a snapshot for how you're travelling from a safety perspective in your business. Now, obviously, in this business, we're not travelling too well because we're rated at a very low score. This little bar graph here will graduate from a red into a yellow and into a green, and obviously we're aiming to be in the green. The benefit of your compliance assessment is that it can provide you with an opportunity to reduce your insurance premiums if you are rated as a high, particularly, or even a medium. So it is worth pursuing, and if you can achieve that, which is relatively easy to do, you can then go and have a conversation with your insurance agent. Now, to dive into what's going on with your compliance assessment and why it might be looking low, there is a 3-dot menu on the right-hand side, which you can click on and click on Full Assessment. That brings you up the 6 areas in the system where your compliance is rated. These, again, are all interactive, so you can click onto this and get a drop-down menu of the 2 areas under Business Details. Now, as it turns out today, these are the 2 areas that we're going to focus on. Now, in this case, business contacts are rated low. So we could go into our business contacts and have a look. Obviously, they're not well set out, or set up, I should say. So there's obviously some gaps. And if we fill in those gaps, we will be able to increase our compliance rating. These things are also able to be expanded out. So down here, it gives you a bit of a tip as to how you can improve your rating under locations. So it suggests that you mark all hazards on your site maps that people need to be aware of. And obviously there's potentially room for improvement there because we're rated medium and not high. All of these are the same in the way they work, so you can expand them all out. So again, managed people is medium, but contractors is low. So contractors, where we're adding contractors or linking to contractors through the contractor directory. So I won't go into all of these in great detail during this webinar, but be aware that there are a whole series of different webinars and they do focus on these different areas. So if you choose webinars relating to these different areas, you will be given tips for how you can improve your rating. Just a tip, if you do make some changes within the system and then you jump straight back into this assessment, you may need to press the recalculate button to update the system. In here, you also have access to the incomplete records report. This provides you with a list of different things which are outstanding in your system. For instance, people not inducted, or inductions which are overdue, inductions which have never been signed, tasks which are overdue, near-miss and incident reports which have not been signed off, expired machinery or equipment registration, expired tools with testing and tagging, draft policies which have never been published, published policies which have never been accepted, checklists which have not been completed in the last 12 months, and inspections the same, which have not been performed in the last 12 months. Again, this is an interactive screen, so we can open these up and have a look at all the inductions which we've never assigned. Possibly you don't need them all, or possibly they should be assigned and someone should be doing them. Okay, so we'll close out of that and come back to our dashboard. So also on our dashboard is the incomplete tasks window. So this is a list of all the tasks in your system which have not been completed and are outstanding. This just gives you a quick snapshot where you can have a look at the tasks which are overdue, and if particular workers have not completed them, you could give them a reminder to complete them, or there might be tasks that you need to attend to. Finally, on the dashboard is the notice board. So the notice board is like a chat site. It's much like a WhatsApp chat or something like that, where you can send out messages to your workers. Now, this notice board is accessible by everyone in the business except contractors. And everyone in the business can post to this notice board and can receive notices on the notice board. If an emergency is raised, it will also be posted onto this notice board. Be aware that the notice board does require connectivity. So if you're out of range and have no mobile service, posting on the notice board won't be received by other people in the business. Okay, so finally a tip, and this is a tip for every for all areas of the SafeX system software, which is the little question mark up here in the far right hand corner. So this question mark gives you access to in-program help that can support you with that particular screen that you are on. So the dashboard, the help articles that will open up will relate to the screen that you are accessing and can provide you with some useful tips and hints for how you should go about setting different things up. Some of these articles will also have videos attached, which can step you through doing certain setup tasks or using the system. All right, so that's all on the dashboard. We'll now move on to looking at managing your account. Now, when it comes to managing your account, the only people within the system that will have access to this area are business administrators. So business administrators, there'll be more information about what a business administrator means when you do the Manage People section or webinar, but those individuals are people which have access to all areas of the system. So up here under the top cog menu in the far right-hand corner of your SafeX system subscription are access to two screens. One is your subscription details and the other is the billing details. So I'll just click quickly on the subscription details. This is a relatively simple screen, which simply tells you the subscription you're on, which will be professional or standard, how many user seats you have, and also enables you to toggle on or off access to SafeX systems. So that means for us, who are located in the Client Services division, if you have this toggled on and you call us for assistance, we can gain access to your system and provide you with some help within the program. If it is toggled off, we don't have access. On the right-hand side is a code which you can generate to connect to a management portal. Now, this purpose of this webinar is not to explain what a management portal is. However, just very briefly, a management portal is for people who might have multiple businesses or multiple locations with potentially in different states or very different areas where they need to keep them separate. So they manage them through what we call a management portal. If you think that might relate to you, please give us a call to discuss. Okay, so back under the cog menu, under here we also have a billing screen. Now the billing screen is only accessible by clients who are paying by credit card. So once again, under the billing screen, you have full information with regards to your subscription. So once again, it tells you that this is a professional subscription. It has a total of 5 user seats, of which 4 are being used. It will tell you when your next payment date is, your billing method. So in this case, it's a Visa card. You have the option of adding a card and removing the card, which is on file. It also tells you who in your system has access to this billing screen. So you can add individuals to this screen. The only people that will have it are people with billing access. So this particular screen cannot be viewed even by all business administrators. It is viewed only by those individuals who you give access to. If you wish to add additional people, you simply click at update and from the drop-down menu, add additional people. All right, so now we'll finally look over here at the subscription tab. So the subscription tab is where you have the option to manage your subscription. So this here tells us that this particular subscription is on a monthly subscription, so we're paying monthly. It tells you here that if you wish to drop down to standard instead of going to professional, you'd need to contact us and allow us to do that for you. You can also move to annual, but again, that's something that you need to contact us to do. But importantly, over here, you have the option to increase or decrease the users in your system. So users are individuals that need access to your safety system to be able to complete tasks, access documents, complete or access your machinery, etc. So if you need additional seats or you need to reduce your number of seats, this is where you do it. You simply click the plus and it will increase it by 1 user and tell you what your new monthly subscription is. Now, if I click this update button, what would happen is my credit card would be charged pro rata for that additional user. So it would be charged from today's date, the 24th of the 10th, through to my next payment date, which is on the 21st of the 11th, 22. So almost 1 month. So it would automatically deduct 3 days off of my monthly subscription and charge me the balance. If I then removed this user seat in a couple of weeks' time, the system would automatically apply a credit to my subscription for the amount of time that I hadn't used on that seat. That credit would remain until my renewal, and at my renewal, the credit would be used up and the balance still owing would be charged to my credit card. Finally, we've got down here the seasonal worker package. So the seasonal worker package is for businesses which have large numbers of workers. So we're talking 50 or more workers, which come onto your property for short periods of time to complete generally repetitive tasks. So we're talking things like fruit pickers and people like that. So if your business has those sorts of employees, please do get in touch with us and we can support you through that process of understanding whether it's suitable. Okay, so the final thing I'll mention, which is not listed in here, is additional add-on software called the Ag Auditor. So the Ag Auditor is software which is designed to support businesses who are undertaking large and complex audits. So if this is you, you can get in touch and we can explain that further. All right, so that's us done on the billing screen. So we'll now move into the business tab over here in the menu and click on the business details. So the business details is where you set up the main entities of your business, who the main contacts are, what your commodities are, and it is also where the letterhead of all of the documents that you go on to create in SafeX systems will be sourced. It is a relatively simple process. So the primary entity name is the business that runs your day-to-day operations and is generally the business that your tax return will be done in. It is fairly logical how you fill it in. You simply have an email address, what type of company, there's a number of options, trust, partnership, sole trader or company. You can populate your ABN, your website if you have one, your telephone number, country, postcode, town and state. Down here you've got your business contacts. So this is the officer of the PCBU, PCBU being a legal term for a person conducting a business or undertaking. Now, many businesses will have more than one person that should be filled in here. If your business has more than one PCBU, you simply come down here and click on the Add a Contact field, and you can go on adding multiple other PCBUs until you've added all of them. Now, it is quite likely that your business may have other entities associated with it. So you may have a business that runs on a day-to-day basis, which is your primary entity here. You may also have some additional businesses associated that may own land, or they may own machinery, or it might be other partners within the business that have separate business names. You can capture all of these by clicking on the Other Entities tab over here, clicking on Add Another Entity, filling in the name of the company, the business type and the ABN, and clicking Save. You can add multiple entities in here, so however many entities are associated with your business should all be added. Over here under Add Edit Logo, if your business has a logo, you can add it in here as well. So back to the primary entity fields, so for primary entity screen, I beg your pardon. Down here under the officer of the PCBU, I mentioned then that you may have multiple businesses associated with this company. All PCBUs across all of the businesses should be added here. You then can fill in the Work Health and Safety Administrator and the key emergency contact. Now, this particular field is very important. If this is not completed, then it is not possible for workers on the app to gain access to the key emergency contact. So this must be filled in for your emergency information to work properly on the mobile phone. So the final field we'll comment on is the content preferences. So down here, you've got the option to set up whatever your commodity might be and the region that you are located on. The importance of these content preferences and region is that the system then uses that information to identify what policies, procedures, and other documents might likely relate to your business, and they will move them into what they call core or relevant categories. So it gives you some prompts as you go on working through the system. Okay, so now we'll move on to locations. So again, locations is located under business, and then you click on the locations tab on your left-hand menu. In here is where you might add in locations. Now, many businesses have multiple locations, so you can add more than one location in here. And the process is to come over here and go add new location, give it a name. Tony's block, have a town and a postcode. Now, if you put in a street address in here, that will get the map to actually zoom in on the actual street and not just the city where you're located. So as you can see, because I put in Glenelg, it has zoomed me into Glenelg in South Australia. Now that I've given that, you can now use your little cogwheel on your mouse to zoom in and locate exactly where you wish to map out your location. So the process for mapping the location is you simply map around the location, clicking the mouse where there is a change of direction, and finally back to where you started, which will close off the boundary. If you wish to change it, you can simply click on these dots and move them around as required. If you've got it wrong, simply clear and start again and repeat. So once you're happy with your boundary, click save and it'll automatically center it into the area that you have mapped out. You can now go ahead and add in items. So there's two areas where you can add in items. You can click over here and go add item, and again it occurs down here on the right-hand side of your app at the bottom. So click an item and you have 5 options. One is to add a hazard. The other is to add an item. So this is not a hazard. It's simply something that is a feature on your property. You can draw a line, so something like a power line. You could draw a polygon if you wish to map out a building, or you want to map out paddocks. And finally, you can add things which are not on the map. So we'll start by adding a hazard. And we'll put it here and say that this is a power line. Now, be aware that the system will not allow you to add a hazard with the same name twice. So, for instance, if you have multiple power lines on your property, you need to give the power line a unique name, not have 15 items called power line. Provide a description, so you can say power pole Tony's paddock. It's already located to Tony's block because that's where I've added. It's located on the hazard layer. You can add it to multiple layers at once, so you could also add this to the structure layer if we wished. If we do click add it to a structure layer, it will then prompt us if we want to attach it to a structure that we have listed in our inventory. So if this power pole was out behind a shed, you could add that structure in as well. So attach it to a structure. You have the option to set a variety of different icons to represent what this is on the map. So I could use this to represent that this is a high voltage power line. And you can change the colour. You can have a contact name on it if you need, and whenever you add a hazard, it will have a priority. So I will set this to high. Other items that you add in will not have a priority, only hazards. If the item or the hazard that you're adding in has an end date, you can add it in here, and you can take a photo and upload it if you want to make it even easier for people to recognise what it is. So once you've filled out the information, you simply click Save, and it is now viewable on your map. So you can go on adding other items in exactly the same way. I could now go on and put in power line. The same process where you click done, and then you go on and put in what it is. Again, we can make this a hazard and a structure. It can be a solid line, but red. Again, because I've put it on the hazard layer, it's come up with a priority. If I didn't have it on the hazard layer, it wouldn't have a priority. And obviously it won't have an end date because it's not going to disappear. So that's the process for adding in hazards. Now I can go on and add other things. So we can go on and draw in a polygon. And this can be a convenient way for adding in things like paddocks. So the process again is exactly the same. You can have it filled or not filled. And in this particular case, it's obviously not going to be a structure. So you could put it in other, or you could put it in biosecurity. You could argue if it's a fence, you could say it's a structure. So again, it's kind of up to you as to where you wish to put it and how you wish to allocate it. Oops, I didn't end up clicking on the layer. Now, when you're viewing the map down here on the right left-hand side, you've got your layers option. So you can turn these on and off. If I turn off the hazard, all the hazards will disappear. If I turn off the other, they will disappear. Current alerts is if someone has raised an emergency through the app, they will appear under the current alerts, current alert layer. And if I turn on people, then for those individuals that have set themselves to at work on the app, you will be able to see their last location. So once you click out of that, that then saves as a tile under your locations. You can go on and you can add more if you so need to. Now, the other option which is helpful to know about is the import items option. So under here, you can import features such as hazards and other such things from a map generated from outside of SafeX systems. Now, be aware that you have to have the boundary drawn, which is the boundary of the property, before you import items. Now, if the map that you're importing contains the boundary of your property, you can go on and add a roughly drawn boundary, then import the map features, and then delete that boundary later. So the files that can be imported are .kml files and .csv files. You drag them into here and then follow the prompts. So I'm not going to go into that in detail in this particular webinar, but if you need more support about that, you can click up here in the question mark, and there's an article that explains how to do it. So I hope you found this webinar useful. There are a whole range of webinars which you can access, and gain further insight into different areas of the program. So if you would like to do this, please go to our website, safeachesystems.com, and at the top, it's got the option to click through on what webinars are available and to book into those sessions which are convenient for you to attend. If you need any support from us, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can gain access to us by calling 08 8490 0939 or drop us an email at help@safeachesystems.com. Thank you for your time.